Senator Mulholland. We'll move to question time. I call Senator Patterson.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher, who's already ready to go, I see. Warren Hogan, economist at Judo Bank, said on the ABC 7:30 on Tuesday night, and I quote, "A big structural lift in government spending in the past decade, which has continued at pace in the last 3 years under this current government, is really all about recurrent spending. That, I think, is increasingly looking like a key factor why ultimately the problem we could be faced with is that interest rates are not high enough to get inflation down. Does the government take responsibility for the rise in inflation and consequential decisions by the RBA to keep the cash rate high?"
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. And I thank the Shadow Finance Minister for that question. And the Treasurer and I proudly present the budgets to the Australian people and to this chamber and the updates to those budgets, and that has ensured that we've been able to invest in those key areas of service delivery. Senator Patterson often cites increased government spending. What he doesn't say, what he never says, is the vast majority of that was going into things like increased pensions, increased support for people with a disability, increased payments. Some of that influenced by higher inflation because those payments can be indexed. And that is the bit that Senator Patterson never says out loud. They like to criticise spending, but they don't like to talk about the fact that much of that was demand-driven programs, which are variations in the budget, but also that they're important investments. And when we came to government, we did find that there were areas where we needed to make additional investments, that people expected that, whether that be in payments like single parenting payment, whether it be in Commonwealth rent relief, to help people through some of those really difficult times. These were the areas that the government prioritised, and we will continue to do so, whether it's investments in Medicare, investments in education so that needs-based funding gets delivered to our children, whether it be investments in early education and care, the work that Senator Walsh is doing to make sure that every child, regardless of your situation, has an entitlement to early education and care. Because we believe, on this side of the chamber, that that builds a better country if we invest in our people, and the government has a role to play there. So what Senator Patterson sees as increased spending as a negative, we see as investments in the future of the country.
Has expired. Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Griffith University Professor Graham Hughes said, and I quote, "This means home owners must prepare for the cash rate to stay put for the foreseeable future. Adding to the pressure is Canberra's spending, which is effectively working against the RBA's efforts to bring rising prices under control. Minister, do you admit the economic reality that growth in government spending running 4 times faster than the growth in the economy is now having real effects on prices, inflation, interest rates and real wages?"
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, we've been very mindful where we have carefully calibrated our spending to ensure that it hasn't made the job of the bank harder, that we have been dealing with those big global pressures that have led to higher inflation. And you know, the bank itself, I think I hear Senator Patterson, and I have heard in interviews, where I don't want to say you're misleading or misrepresenting the bank, but you've certainly got a different interpretation of what the governor has said in relation to that. We have been very, what you don't say is the things that we have done to assist the bank in its work, which is deliver 2 surpluses, pay down debt by returning extra revenue back into the budget, so we have less debt, less interest on that debt. But where we are investing, we are making a difference to people's lives, and it's in the productive side of our economy, in our people and in those people's skills.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. At present, the RBA is having to do all the heavy lifting via monetary policy to get inflation down. Will the government consider any changes in fiscal policy to support these efforts, or is the government's attitude to higher prices and lower real wages nothing to see here?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Well, again, I don't accept the proposition in the question at all, and I don't think and I don't believe that is the bank's view. And again, I don't want to. The bank can speak for itself, but we are mindful of the role that the Commonwealth budget plays in our economy. We are mindful of our responsibilities to the Australian people to deliver the commitments that we took to the election. But I think when you look at your record, Senator Patterson, when your party was last in government and ours, you'll see that your two massive Liberal deficits turned into two Labor surpluses, $100 billion worth of savings, $188 billion less debt, and $60 billion of less interest on that debt, so that we have been in a position to repair the budget, to get it in better shape, and to make sure that all the wastes and rorts that you have are being put into good investment into.
Has expired. Before I come to you, Senator Walker, I draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the gallery of the Australian Political Exchange Council's 37th delegation from the United States of America, led by the Honourable Kelly Gee. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. Senator Walker.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. The Albanese Labor government is focused on the things that Australians are focused on, providing cost of living relief and strengthening Medicare, just to name a few. What is the government doing to deliver on our commitments to the Australian people?
Thank you, Senator Walker. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and thank you to my fellow South Australian, Senator Walker, for that excellent question, and welcome to our American friends. Welcome to the Australian Senate. Well, our government, the Albanese government, is building on our record on our first term, focused on delivering our commitments to the Australian people to ease cost of living pressures. And that focus puts us in stark contrast with those opposite, who really have spent this week focused on themselves. On that side, division, and on this side, delivery. Division and delivery. Just in this fortnight, we have passed our payday super bill to require employers to pay workers super at the same time as salary and wages. We've passed Baby Priya's bill, which means parents experiencing the stillbirth or death of a child will have their parental leave protected. And I want to express publicly my personal appreciation for the sensitivity shown by Ms Lee and Senator Hume and others in their comments on this matter. We have strengthened Medicare with the largest investment since its inception through Labor's tripled bulk billing incentive program. We are giving women better access to affordable contraceptive options through our landmark women's health package. We're making cheaper medicines even cheaper. And this government backs high wages. We back higher wages after a decade in which lower wages were a deliberate design feature of those opposite. We've delivered income tax cuts for every taxpayer, with more to come. And we are cutting student debt by 20% because we, on this side of the chamber, we want to make sure Australians earn more and keep more of what they earn. That's right, earn more and keep more of what they earn. It's a far cry from the divided rabble opposite who have forgotten about the people they represent.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Walker, first supplementary.
In May, the Australian people voted for a government that would focus on the things that really matter to Australians, like building more homes and making it easier for Australians to buy them. How is the government delivering on its commitment to make it easier for more Australians to access the security of home ownership?
Thank you, Senator Walker. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. And Senator Walker rightly focused on housing as one of the issues in her first speech. And we took to the election an ambitious plan to build more houses and to make it easier for Australians to buy a home of their own. Unlike those opposite, who neglected housing for a decade, this government is making it easier for Australians to achieve the security of home ownership. Unfortunately, the Liberals and the Nationals still don't take housing seriously. And the reality is no one can actually keep up with their policies. On Monday, Senator Bragg declared we can pretty much close the book on the Coalition's disastrous super for housing policy. But he forgot to share his plans with his mate, Mr Wilson, who was continuing his campaign to let young people raid their retirement incomes. Look, it's all pretty embarrassing, and it would never happen under a Wilson government, would it, Senator Bragg?
Thank you, Minister. Senator Walker, second supplementary.
The Albanese Labor government is focused on building on the strong foundation of its first term. to keep delivering for Australians. What progress is the government making, and what are the obstacles to that progress?
Thank you, Senator Walker. Minister Wong.
Well, President, I'm asked about obstacles to progress, and to be honest, there they are. There they are. They're sitting across from me in this chamber, an opposition entirely focused on infighting, an opposition which, according to earlier reports, we've seen senior Liberals, Senator Cash, Senator Duniam, Senator Patterson, all arguing to dump net zero and their response on climate. They've made it pretty obvious where they're headed. They've made it pretty obvious where they're headed, but unfortunately it's not where the leader is headed. It's not where Ms Lee is headed. So how are the Australians meant to believe the Liberals when the Liberals don't even believe in their own leader? This is not a credible party of government. This is not a credible party
Minister
of
Wong,
government.
please resume your seat. Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, President. I would ask you, on relevance, that maybe you could direct the leader back to the question that was asked by her own side.
Thank you, Senator Ruston. I believe the minister is being relevant to the question which was asked. Minister. Minister.
This is not the behaviour of a credible party of government, and I rarely agree with the headline in The Australian. Almost never. But the worst performers in 40 years had a ring of truth.
The time for answering has expired. Order. 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 To those on my left, if you cast your eyes around, you'll see that Senator Sharma was on his feet. Senator Sharma.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Minister Gallagher. In his statement on Tuesday, Minister, the Treasurer has defended the government's economic policies by noting that real wages are growing. Minister, given the RBA's updated forecasts released this week, for how much longer will that be the case?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I thank Senator Sharma for the question. And this government is determined to ensure that people's wages keep growing. That is why we have done a number of things, including amendments to the Fair Work Act, but also supporting minimum wage increases. We remember the times where those opposite they had a special section in their application to the Fair Work Commission on the minimum wage review. It was a special chapter that said the importance of low wages.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Patterson.
Well, this is really necessary, but on direct relevance. I'm not sure what the Fair Work Commission under the previous government has to do with Senator Sharma's question.
Senator Patterson, the minister is being relevant to the question. The question went to wages. Minister Gallagher, among other things.
Thank you. So there was.
Order.
We know what those opposites stood for, and the deliberate design feature of their economic policy was to keep wages down. We know they had that chapter in their submission. We know that on this side, since coming to government, we have actively sought to ensure that wages get moving again, and real wages grew 1.3% through the year to the June quarter, the strongest annual growth in 5 years. I know Senator Ruston won't like this. They've grown for 7 consecutive quarters under this government. And what were they under you, Senator Ruston, when you were at the decision-making table? They were going backwards by 3.4%.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sharma, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. Minister, the RBA now expects headline inflation to soar to 3.7% and remain high across 2026. And at the same time, the RBA is predicting wage growth of 3% by mid-2026. So with inflation rising to 3.7% and wage growth rising only 3%, what do you say to the millions of Australians whose purchasing power will fall next year?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Gallagher. I have the minister on her feet.
Well, what I would say, Senator Sharma, to those people is they have a government that cares about working people in this country, cares about wages, cares about the role that service workers play in our economy, for example, cares about it so much that we've increased the wages for early childhood educators and carers. We've increased the wages for aged care workers, and we will continue that approach. We want working people to earn more and keep more of what they earn. and we want the economy to grow and we want people to benefit from that. And so our approach will be of a mature party of government that takes our role seriously, that remains united, that delivers on the commitments we took to the election, and will continue to manage the budget in a responsible way so that the working people of this country get a fair deal, get paid appropriately for the work they do, and understand that they have a government that cares about that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sharma, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Due to the inflation fuelled by out-of-control government spending, inflation is high and projected to stay high, interest rates are staying high, power prices are rising exponentially, and next year Australians will have lower real wages to pay for it all. Minister, isn't it very clear now that Australians are worse off under Labor?
Thank you, Senator Sharma. Minister Gallagher.
Well, the Australian people had their say in May, so I'll just draw that to your attention. And I think the dissembling of those opposite in the months since May shows that the Australian people have got it right again, because you are not fit for government. But when you talk about spending, you are talking about age pension increases, energy bill relief, cheaper childcare, cheaper medicines, urgent care clinics, bulk billing, paid parental—
Please resume your seat. Senator Henderson, sorry I didn't see you.
Thank you very much, President. The point of order, I would just ask that you ask the Minister, she made a number of references to you, if she could direct her comments through the chair, please.
I think the Minister is directing her comments to me, Senator Henderson, but I'll continue to look. Thank you for drawing me to that. Minister Gallagher,
thank you. When they
continue.
complain about government spending, that is what they are talking about. PPL, free TAFE, new affordable housing, leaving violence program, the investments in the NDIS, the investments in our aged care workforce, in in veterans' compensation that we just talked about earlier today. These are investments that this government has made, but they are important investments in the health of our country, not just the health of our people, but the economic future of this country as well.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. It looks increasingly unlikely that Australia's bid to host COP31 with Pacific nations will be successful. No arrangement with Turkey has been reached, and the Turkish leader isn't even responding to our Prime Minister's letters. The Prime Minister and the Climate Minister are not going to COP30. The South Australian Premier is not going to COP30. Is the government even trying to pretend that it wants to host this important international climate opportunity? Or have your mining mates told you to let it go, just like they've told you this morning through the Minerals Council to pass the mining fast-track EPBC reforms before Christmas?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Senator Waters, if you will indulge me, I just want to give a shout-out to the kids from Darwin at Malandiri's request. To Indiana, Ebony, your classmates and teachers at St Paul's Primary, Senator McCarthy says good day. As do we all. Senator, your question is full of many inaccuracies. We want to host the COP primarily and most importantly because we want to elevate the voices of the Pacific, and that is the approach we have taken all the way along. That is why I have engaged at the Pacific Islands Forum and at Foreign Ministers level. That's why Minister Bowen has engaged with the PIF in his track, and the Prime Minister has engaged with the Pacific Islands Forum at LEADER. And we have engaged very closely with the Pacific, both then but also at UNGA, the UN General Assembly, where both Minister Bowen and I met with Pacific representatives to talk through, trying to find a way through to get this conference held in Australia, and, as importantly, to elevate Pacific experience and Pacific voices. In terms of the assertion about the mining companies, I don't believe I have ever, might be wrong, but I can't recall ever having a conversation with a resource company about our bid to hold COP. And I know that you like conspiracy theories, but what I would say to you is really you are not on track. The discussions continue. I wish we had resolved this earlier. Of course I do. And certainly I know the importance of elevating the Pacific experience, because the Pacific, as you know, are experiencing climate change here and now, affecting livelihoods, national security, their economy, as well as food security and so much more.
Senator Waters, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. Pacific nations and First Nations communities have urged all nations, including Australia, to phase out fossil fuels in order to prevent the climate catastrophe that is making their homes unlivable. How can we expect the UN to take our bid seriously if we're not even doing what our bid partners are asking of us?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Wong.
Senator, sometimes I wish that you could actually see and engage, see some of the engagement, or in fact engage with some of the Pacific leaders whom you utilise in your political rhetoric here, because we do. And what you are suggesting about some of the approaches is simply not accurate. Of course, and what I would say to you is, for example, President Whipps of Palau, who recognised Australia's leadership in setting what he described as incredibly ambitious and achievable 2035 emissions reduction targets. Now, I know that doesn't assist your narrative, but have some respect for Pacific leaders who actually do recognise what we are doing. What I'd also say to you is actually we have had widespread support for our bid from across the international community and in the group that we are part of within the UNFCCC.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator Waters, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. This government's proposed new environmental laws don't take account of climate impacts, but they do include a new fast-track pathway for coal and gas projects that the Minerals Council and Chevron and BHP are delighted by. Has Australia's determination to fast-track fossil fuels jeopardised our bid to host COP31?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Wong.
Well, I can hand on heart say I don't recall anyone ever raising the EPBC Act with me in any international forum. And if I've misled you, I will come back to the chamber and correct it. But I don't believe there's been any discussion about the EPBC legislation that Minister Watt is putting forward. Obviously, people do have views, and what I would say is this, very simply. We want stronger protections for the environment and we want faster decisions for business. And it's entirely up to the Greens whether you choose a path that ensures that you are not relevant to a discussion about where the environmental laws will be in decades to come, or whether you are. And that relevance does depend on whether you are prepared to engage with the government of the day, or whether you continue to stake out a position that you know will lead to legislation that has been passed with the support of the coalition.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sterle.
Thank you, President.
Order. We have moved on.
Thank you, President, for that protection. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. As the world embarks on the biggest economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution, only Labor is protecting the environment whilst pursuing the enormous economic and jobs opportunity that the energy transition offers Australia. Can the Minister please outline the government's practical plan to seize these opportunities? And why is it important to send the right investment signals to investors in the energy transition? You might want to hear this. You might learn something.
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Sterle for that question, because it's a very important question around how Australia approaches the massive economic transition that's going on across the world in relation to the renewable energy transition. And the Albanese government has a clear and credible path to net zero and to manage and maximise the benefits of this economic transformation. We need to help Australia, or our policies need to help Australia attract investment, lift wages, grow living standards and create jobs and spread economic opportunity right around the country. And we know from the modelling that was released by Treasury, which accompanied Labor's announcement on our 2035 targets, Treasury's modelling makes clear really five key conclusions. One, that Australia can be a primary beneficiary of the global net zero transformation if we continue to take action on climate change. Secondly, that cleaner and cheaper energy will strengthen Australia's international competitiveness, that clear and credible climate action will lead to more jobs, higher wages and better living standards for Australians, and that an orderly net zero plan gives business the clarity and certainty they need to invest in Australia with confidence. They also find that a disorderly transition will mean fewer jobs, less business investment, lower wages, lower living standards and higher power prices in a smaller economy. These are the clear findings from Treasury, and they, as the experts, have had a look very closely, including across the world, and the benefits for Australia are clear, which is why on this side of the chamber we are united in our approach to grabbing those economic opportunities that come, to walk together to make sure that we don't miss those opportunities and that the jobs and higher living standards that come with
Thank
it
you, Minister.
will
the
benefit
time for
all
answering
Australians.
Has expired. Senator Sterle, first supplementary.
Yes, thank you, President. The government knows that energy prices are a key concern for Australian households, which is why we have delivered energy bill relief. As the world looks towards a green energy future, what benefit does the energy transition offer Australians when it comes to the cost of electricity?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President. I thank Senator Sterle again for that question. Well, all of the advice to government makes it very clear that the cheapest form of new energy is firmed renewables. That's right, firmed renewables. That upward pressure on electricity is overwhelmingly due to ageing fossil fuel assets. And 3, that if we don't have an orderly transition to the renewable energy future, means high prices for households, high prices for business, less jobs, less business investment, and those opposite, the party of the free market, as Senator Bragg so eloquently put in one of his 3,000 interviews this week. Well, the debate's over. I mean, the capital markets have made up their minds here. There is a wall of money going to renewable energy. Where is the party of free markets gone
has
to?
Expired. Senator Sterle, second supplementary.
Yes, thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. Treasury has told us that abandoning net zero would result in fewer jobs, less growth, lower investment, lower wages and lower living standards. What is the government doing to ensure that Australia avoids a disorderly transition, or even worse, a scenario where net zero is abandoned?
Thank you, Senator Sterle. Order. 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 Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Sterle for that excellent delivery of that question. But this government is focused on making sure that this generation and, importantly, future generations benefit from the opportunities that come with the global energy transition and economic transition that is currently underway. And we know from information to us, and this would have normally been enough to convince the old Liberal Party or the traditional Liberal Party to stick with a energy policy, or at least not abandon net zero. We know that the economy would be projected to be $2 trillion smaller by 2050. GDP per capita would be $4,500 lower by 2050, and wholesale electricity prices, if you are worried about prices, would be about 50% higher by 2050. That is the reality of what you are about to do when you abandon net zero.
Order. Once again, we have moved on. Senator David Pocock.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Assistant Treasurer, Senator Gallagher.
Please continue, Senator Pocock.
Minister, Australians reported more than 108,000 scams and financial losses of about $174 million to the National Anti-Scam Centre's Scam Watch in the first half of this year. In February this year, the Parliament passed the Scam Prevention Framework, and at the time the Assistant Treasurer gave multiple assurances that the industry codes enforcing the framework would be developed as quickly as possible. Is it correct that the drafts of the industry codes are yet to be released for consultation?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, and I thank Senator Pocock for the question. And he is right to remind the chamber that in November 2024 we introduced landmark legislation to establish the Scams Prevention Framework. It passed the House in February 2025. That framework provides a new model of accountability for banks, telcos and digital platforms, and it also imposes tough mandatory obligations to prevent, detect, report and disrupt scams. These laws made Australia the toughest place in the world for scammers to operate, and they also provide a clear pathway for consumers to be compensated if a bank, telco or digital platform has done the wrong thing. I think, and I acknowledge the work of former Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones for the work that he did right across the community in ensuring that we had scam prevention framework in place. Treasury, I was just waiting for information around where the codes are up to. My advice is that Treasury is working towards designating and developing codes for the banking and telecommunications sector and certain digital platform services, including social media, paid search engine advertising and direct messaging services. I have no further information in front of me, but if there is anything further, I will provide it to Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
And thank you, Minister, for that. Minister, do you know what the draft timeline for the release of the draft industry codes is?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. I do not have that information in front of me, Senator Pocock. I have a lot of information about this, but that is not one piece that I can quickly identify. I will ask the Assistant Treasurer provide you with that information directly.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Mr. President, and thank you, Minister. Minister, I understand you can't give us a date, but do you know why the government has taken this long to release the draft codes? I'm hearing from people that it's just too slow, given we passed this in February and we're seeing Australians being scammed.
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, I will say so on that issue. I will ask that the Assistant Treasurer correspond directly with Senator Pocock on the time. I imagine it's there is work, consultation underway. I know how the Treasury operates; that they have established consultation processes. So I have no doubt that there is work underway. But if there is a date that can be provided to Senator Pocock, I will ask that be occur. In relation to the response to scams, though, whilst this code is important, there are already measures in place to protect people from scams, including from the banks and telcos themselves, who I've met with recently, and that this is one of the top issues they raise with me, not only in protecting their customers, but also ensuring that their reputation of their business is maintained, and they are very motivated to protect customers from scams. But on the question itself, I will ask the Assistant Treasurer to provide an answer.
Senator Duniam.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Watt. Given the rapid acceleration in the illicit tobacco trade in the years of the Albanese government and all of the dangerous black market and organised crime activity associated with it, does the Minister accept that the lack of any meaningful or decisive practical action by your government is severely hampering state and territory governments' efforts to shut down this illegal activity within their jurisdictions?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Duniam, and congratulations, Senator Duniam, on your recent appointment as the Shadow Home Affairs Minister. I look forward to the only person happier about that than me was Senator Patterson, who we might recall at the most recent estimates was the acting temporary interim Shadow Home Affairs Minister. So it's good to have an actual Shadow Home Affairs Minister, and I look forward to seeing you at estimates. I think I was asked a question about this in the last fortnight, and the point I made there was that the government has taken serious action about what is a serious problem, and that is the growth of illicit tobacco. We have provided $256.4 million in funding from 2023-24 to Border Force to strengthen the border against illegal tobacco and vaping products. There is a substantial amount of work being undertaken in combination with state and territory police forces to combat illegal tobacco. For example, we've set up the Illegal Tobacco National Disruption Group, which comprises the AFP and other federal agencies with every state and territory police force. We recognise this is a serious problem. It's going to take a lot of effort, not just from federal government agencies but state and territory agencies, and we remain committed to supporting them.
Thank you, Senator Watt. Senator Duniam, first supplementary.
Yeah, thanks, President. In 2023, Minister Mark Butler forecast that tobacco excise would deliver an extra $3.3 billion in revenue over the forward estimates, instead of what's now turned into a roughly $25 billion loss as a result of the exploding illegal tobacco trade. Minister, can you tell the Senate exactly how much worse off the bottom line will be as a result of this hands-off approach and the lack of any effective action being taken by your government?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Duniam. I don't have figures to hand as to the budget impact of these matters, but as I say, well, if you know the answer, I'm not sure why you're asking the question. Well, it sounds like Senator Duniam has answered his own question.
Senator Duniam, second supplementary.
I was after an exact figure, but anyway. In light of the answers to both of those questions, what is the minister's response to the clear exasperation of the New South Wales Health Minister, Ryan Park, who told reporters yesterday that he was very disappointed with the lack of action from the federal government, including that the government has no intention to change anything in this area, despite the near constant pleas from state governments to do something about it?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Duniam. I haven't seen those comments myself, but what I can say, as I have already said, is that we're very committed to working with state and territory agencies to tackle this serious problem. There's effort going in from a police enforcement level. There's effort going in from Border Force. There's a range of other effort being undertaken at the federal level as well. We know that it will take time, but we're already seeing results of some of these efforts. Over 2.5 billion illegal cigarettes and a total of 2,000 tonnes of tobacco were seized by Border Force last year, which is up 320% over 3 years. So we recognise there's more to be done, but we'll keep sticking at it. It's an important issue.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Minister Gallagher. We've got some very bad news this week from the RBA. Inflation is at the top of the target band and moving upwards. Unemployment is up, and the RBA predicts wage growth will be zero by Christmas and negative in the new year. Labor takes credit for every little scrap of good news on the economy. Will you accept responsibility for the disastrous figures from the RBA we've seen this week?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Gallagher.
Well, I don't agree with all of the language that was used by Senator Whitten in that question. But of course, the government takes responsibility for the decisions that we make, and the fact that inflation has come down. When we came to government, it had a 6 in front of it, Senator Whitten. You weren't here then, but that's the reality. That's fact. It is now half of that, and that makes a difference. That's why the decisions we took in the last parliament were focused on getting inflation down and back into band, and that's what's happened. Debt down, again, important role to play in the economy in how we manage our debt, which is why $188 billion less debt was an important part of our plan to respond. Getting real wages growing, again, a key priority of this government to make sure that after a decade of no wage growth, we saw, or stagnant wage growth, we saw 7 successive quarters of wages growth under this government because of the decisions we take, and we take responsibility for those. Unemployment down. Unemployment at historic lows. 1.1 million jobs made and created under this government, including seeing women's participation in the labour market at record highs. And why do you think that is? Because we're getting the gender pay gap down, because we're investing in early education and care so that women can make more choices. We're getting rid of things like the activity test, punitive restraints on women's economic participation. That is what we are doing. And interest rates have fallen 3 times. So where is more work to do? And the Treasurer and I say that all the time. There is more work to do. Our work is not finished. But the Australian people have a government that will continue to invest and make the right decisions.
I just remind those on my left that your constant interjections are disorderly. I asked you to be quiet on several occasions. You completely ignored me. Not only that, this is not your question. It's Senator Witten's, and he is Senator McGrath, and he is entitled to hear the answer. Senator Witten, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Labor is driving up housing demand with their 5% deposit scheme. Young Australians are taking out 95% mortgages with massively inflated
Senator
house prices. Many would be relying on further interest rate cuts. The current indicators suggest an interest rate rise looks more likely. Labor has handed young Australians a poison chalice. Is Labor driving young Australians into mortgage stress?
Thank you, Senator Witten. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, and no. The short answer to that question is no. And this is a government that is seeking to address some of those intergenerational inequities that exist across our economy, like in relation to HECS debt, for example. The situation of young people, and where there are areas where the government can help, we will look to help and address that inequity that we see. And when it comes to housing, there is not enough supply of housing in this country. And we are building housing. That is what we have to do. We have to continue to focus on supply so that we can provide the housing opportunities for younger people that I had when I was looking to buy my first home. That is what this government is about. That is why we are investing in every single aspect right along the housing compendium, from homelessness all the way to home ownership, because it matters, and that is what this government will continue to do.
Senator Witten, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. All of the numbers are pointing the wrong way. Inflation up, unemployment up, housing prices up, supply inadequate, GDP per capita down, disposable income down, productivity down. Australians are not thriving under Labor, they are suffering. Does Labor take responsibility for putting Australians, especially young Australians, in the path of a recession that we didn't have to have?
Thank you, Senator Witten. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, here are some other statistics. Employment up, participation rate up, gender pay gap down, women employed full-time up, manufacturing jobs up, annual wage growth up, annual real wages up, wholesale electricity prices down, gas prices down, private business investment up. These are the things that matter. Like we are focused on helping households. We're dealing with the inflation challenge. We are making sure that we help people with cost of living pressures where we can, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ghosh.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change, Senator Ayres. Energy has always been the foundation of Australian industry's international competitive advantage. With our abundant renewable resources and the falling cost of renewable generation, we have the chance to secure Australia's industrial future and tens of thousands of jobs in regional Australia. How is the government seizing this opportunity, and what are the examples of industrial investments driven by cheaper and cleaner energy?
Senator Ayres.
So, I am reminded, I think what really annoys those opposite the most is that we've set out a very credible plan to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Now it's not me saying that. It's not me saying that. That's Senator Matthew O'Sullivan. That's Senator Matthew O'Sullivan, Tuesday, 23 November 2021. That's what he said. That's what he said. Now, we are the only party of government in this place that understands that competitive energy prices have been, are and will be the source of Australia's future competitive advantage in industry. And if the show over here for a moment could abandon the imported far-right talking points, from Senator Canavan's social media account, they would understand that what industry is demanding is more electricity, more renewables, backed by storage and gas, that is the cheapest form of a modern electricity system
for this country. 15 gigawatts of renewables and storage into the system, 20 more in the pipeline. Your miserable record, 4 gigawatts out and only 1 tiny gigawatt in. The source of Australia's current competitive problems in energy is all over there. The decade of delinquency and inaction and the frozen ideological paralysis, where what we are watching is the slow march across here of far-right extremism.
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Ghosh, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Underinvestment in the energy system and political neglect have eroded Australia's industrial competitiveness. Can the minister confirm that neither the Gladstone nor Bayswater coal power plants could offer enough cheap energy to keep their respective aluminium smelters operating at full capacity?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ayres.
Well, Senator Ghosh, you're right. Rio was clear that the coal power from Bayswater is too expensive after 2028. And Rio curtailed production at Boyne Island in 2017 because the electricity from the Gladstone coal power plant was too expensive. President, why were these smelters forced to go to ageing coal plants for power? Because the previous government's supreme incompetence, its lack of diligence, its lack of capacity to be able to deliver more than 1 puny gigawatt in the national interest has meant that we've had a decade-long investment drought, disinvestment, and that has a consequence for real people. To quote a letter from the Newcastle Herald today, energy uncertainty is hurting industry. Tomago's situation should prompt urgent investment in clean, reliable
thank you, Minister.
and affordable
the time
energy.
for answering has expired. Senator Ghosh, second supplementary.
A cheaper and cleaner energy system requires partnerships between the Commonwealth and state governments, along with private investors. Why is coherent and serious policy key for these partnerships, and what parts of the community are affected if policy is incoherent?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ayres.
Well, you know, they are the party of the sort of gourmet food Sunday morning market. We are the party that actually wants to use markets in the public interest. I think Mr O'Brien, Ted O'Brien, said on the 23rd of November 2021, "My view is that we can all win from getting to net zero." That's what he said. That's what he said. What has happened to the Liberal Party? Liberal moderates are now Australia's largest invertebrate species. Australia's largest invertebrate species, all through there. Not only an incapacity to have the political spine to stand up to this right-wing extremist imported takeover, but without the intellectual coherence to mount an argument that's based on investor certainty
thank you,
and
Minister
policy
Ayres.
coherence.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Cadell.
I'm shook as President. Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, Senator McAllister. Minister, the government has issued its consultation regularly impact analysis on a proposal to reduce speed limits to as low as 70 km per hour on rural roads. The government's consultation cost-benefit analysis says there is evidence to suggest that increased speed can be increased fuel consumption and therefore increased CO2 emissions, and that the value of GHG emissions, therefore, is not internalised in the market, which means that individuals do not make decisions based on the overall impact. This is a classic market failure, making the value of emissions difficult to estimate accurately. Minister, is the government reducing speed limits on rural roads so that it can reach its net zero goals? And why are the only people in rural areas being asked to reduce their speeds to reach Labor's net zero target?
Senator Cadell, I can put the question to Minister McAllister, but I would only ask her to answer it in the best way she can. The correct minister is Senator McCarthy. Did you wish me? I am happy to direct the question to Senator McCarthy, but equally you called Senator McCarthy. Thank you. Senator McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Cadell. It's interesting that the focus is on speed limits. It makes you wonder just how fast these guys on the other side want to keep going. How many questions around this has been really, really interesting. I mean, this was a Nationals policy, President, in 2018 when the member for New England, then the member for Riverina, held the infrastructure portfolio. Suggestions our government has suddenly decided it's time to change regional speed limits.
I can't hear a word. So that means on my left there is way too much noise. Minister McCarthy.
I mean, suggestions, President, that our government has suddenly decided it's time to change regional speed limits is wrong. Priority action number 1 of their road safety action plan was to consult on changing speed limits.
Please, you should. Order on my left. Order on my left. Minister McCarthy, please continue. Senator McKenzie, I've called order. That applies to you. Senator McKenzie. Minister.
I mean, priority action number 1, President, of their road safety action plan was to consult on changing speed limits on high-risk regional roads. And we're putting their idea out to consultation for Australians to settle it. And the other part of this scare campaign is to say we just need to fix the roads. We want potholes filled and roads improved. That's why we're investing more than ever in making our roads safer. They're not interested in making our roads safer, President. Doubled funding for the Roads to Recovery program.
Minister McCarthy, please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam President. The question is a point of order on relevance. The question was about the reference to carbon emission reductions as a benefit in the government's consultation paper. The minister hasn't gone anywhere near that.
Senator Canavan, as you well know, that was not the only part of the question. Order! Order! Senator Ayres. I had Senator Hanson-Young no. I had Senator Canavan on his feet with a point of order. Before I even had a chance to finish my response to that, we had interjections across the chamber. Senator Patterson, I've called you way too many times today. Minister McCarthy is being relevant, Senator Canavan. However, I will continue to listen carefully. And that means, Senator McKenzie, no interjections. Minister McCarthy.
Thanks for your protection, President. So, to let the other side know that we've doubled funding for the Roads Recovery program to $1 billion per year to help councils upgrade their roads. We've reversed the Liberal freeze on highway maintenance funding to get on with fixing potholes and resurfacing our national highways. Now, the Coalition, they could have done that, President, in their wasted decade of government, but they didn't. And we're making big investments in our roads, making them safer and more efficient, and it's no thanks to those opposite.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Cadell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, the consultation regular impact analysis says that the government plans to apply a carbon price to show the benefits of lower carbon emissions from reduced speeds on rural roads. Why is the government applying up to a $179 carbon tax on people who drive on country roads?
Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, you know, as I've said in my previous response, it was priority action number 1 in your plan to review speed limits on high-risk regional roads. And can I just say,
Senator McKenzie.
Well, if you know the answer, I don't need to speak.
Senator Cadell, second supplementary. Yes, Senator McKenzie.
Senator Cadell's questions have gone to the government's on relevancy, have gone to the government's own consultation paper, and the minister has not
Senator
come near it.
Senator McKenzie, the minister is being relevant. I believe she's answered the first supplementary. So you have one more. Thank you, Senator Cadell.
Thank you, President. Minister, will the government rule out use?
Order.
That's hurtful, sir. Minister, will the government rule out any calculation of carbon emissions reductions in its decision regulatory impact analysis? Can the government commit that any decision to reduce speed limits will be based purely on safety concerns, not the ideological pursuit of Labor's net zero?
Thank you, Senator Cadell. Minister McCarthy.
Talk about the ideological pursuit of net zero. We know where the Nationals sit. We know where the Nationals sit. We have no idea where the Liberals sit on net zero, President. In fact, if you listen to the media or if you
Minister
go
McCarthy.
up to—
Order. 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 Senator McKim. Senator Canavan.
Just a point of order on relevance. The question went to a government decision and the release of a decision regulatory impact analysis. Immediately the minister started talking about an opposition party. I don't think that is relevant. And I've also seek leave to table the consultation regulatory impact assessment, which includes a carbon tax of $179, which includes seeking to reduce speed limits to reach.
Seat. It is hard for me to take you seriously when you stand up and make a point of order and then you deliberately ignore me when I try and seek order and you continue on and make a statement. I've said time and time in this place, make your point of order and don't make a statement. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. First, in relation to the document, Senator, there are courtesies, as you are aware. If those are observed, our general view is that usually amenable to tabling, so if those courtesies can be extended and the whips be consulted in the usual way. In relation to the point of order itself, I would humbly submit that a discussion about net zero ideology probably does invite a discussion about the opposition.
Senator Canavan, the words net zero ideology were part of the question. I will listen carefully to the minister, and if she's not addressing the question, I'll draw her to it. Minister McCarthy, you've finished. Senator Brown.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister for the Environment and Water, Senator Watt. Today is a landmark day for the environment in Australia. The Albanese Labor government's environmental law reforms are expected to pass the House of Representatives today. Can the minister outline how these reforms will protect the environment and why they're so important to achieve our climate goals?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Brown. Well, today is indeed a landmark day for the environment in Australia. And it's another, and they don't like it. They don't like making progress on the environment, do they? How green is the Green Party when they don't even want to support progress on the environment? Today is another stop on the journey towards achieving meaningful reform for Australia's broken environmental laws. The Environmental Protection Reform Bill is set to pass the House of Representatives today with the support of every Labor MP as well as some independents, bringing real benefits to the environment, business and community one step closer.
Senator Hanson-Young, come to order.
The legislation includes stronger environmental protections, more efficient and robust project approvals and greater accountability and transparency in environmental decision-making. Unfortunately, though, it's back to the future with a rerun of Australia's worst reality TV show, The Noalition. It's back for another season. But in this season, happening today in the House of Representatives, we see the Greens party teams up with Barnaby Joyce and his other anti-renewable, climate-denying MPs in voting against these laws. We've seen the Greens political party have voted against reforms that will deliver Australia's first National Environmental Protection Agency, new national environmental standards that projects must meet, and higher penalties for those who illegally damage our environment. And at the same time, we see the Liberal and National parties vote against reforms that will deliver faster assessments and approvals for major projects, up to $7 billion injected in the national economy, and updated bilateral agreement frameworks for states and territories to fast-track assessments and approvals. It's vital that these laws are passed so we can build the housing and renewables we need to reach net zero by 2050. But of course, this is a policy, net zero, that is about to be dropped by the Liberal Party at the behest of their junior coalition partner, who are less than 1/6 the size of them in this Senate.
The time for answering has expired. I remind you, if you are referring to people in the other place, to use their correct titles. Senator Brown, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. These reforms are not only vital to protect our precious environment, but also to ensure that we can accelerate investment in key national priorities like housing and renewable energy. Minister, can you outline the broad support for this bill and for climate action from across the community?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Watt.
We are seeing support from a wide range of parties for these reforms. In the last few days, we've seen support from the Housing Industry Association, the AI Group, from the Clean Energy Council, a group who like to deliver renewable energy, something the Greens Party once upon a time supported, until they wanted to stop it because they want to stop everything. So we've got the Clean Energy Council supporting more renewables and supporting these reforms, while the Greens Party want to team up with Barnaby Joyce and say no. What a horrible thought.
Minister Watt, I did remind you to refer to others in that other place by their correct titles.
As I say, it is very, very disturbing to see the once proud Liberal Party being led by the nose by the National Party to drop net zero, probably to oppose these reforms as well. And I did a quick count and was reminded myself that in the Senate we have 4 National Party senators, we have 23 Liberal Party senators, and in fact you poached one of the Nationals in Senator Nampijinpa Price, and you're still being led by the National Party. There are as many Liberal senators called James and Andrew as there are National Party senators, and you are following them.
Minister, when I ask you to stop, you need to stop. Senator Brown, second supplementary.
Thank you, President.
Order. 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 I have Senator Brown on her feet. Senator Brown.
The Albanese Labor government is unified in its approach to investing in renewables to achieve net zero by 2050, which will ultimately protect our precious environment. How important is policy certainty around our energy market, particularly for business investment around the country?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Watt.
It is vital for investment certainty in the energy transition that we have policy certainty when it comes to climate change, energy and environmental law reform. That's what we're seeking support for with these reforms when we come back in the final sitting week of the year. And as I was saying, when it comes to the Liberals, there are as many Jameses and Andrews in the Liberal Party room in the Senate as there are National Party senators. All you needed to do is to get one more. You could get an Anne. You could get a Dave, you could get a Maria, and you'd have the numbers on the Nationals. But you are still letting this rump of 4 senators drag you by the nose into oblivion.
Minister Watt, Senator Henderson. Order. Order. Senator Henderson.
Point of order, Madam President. I would ask that you ask the minister who's been most disrespectful to refer to senators by their proper names.
Get to the point of order.
The minister needs to refer to senators by their proper and correct names. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Henderson. You will note I have been asking the minister to do that, and I'll remind him once again to refer to others.
But have a Sarah or a Senator Henderson even join you and have the numbers over the nats, but you're still letting them lead you along. Now, it appears that the Liberal lapdogs are taking commands from the fake farmers in the National Party. We've got the National Party saying heel, and they heel. We've got them saying sit, and they sit. And now they're rolling over just like a lapdog on net zero.
Minister Watt. Minister Watt, resume your seat. Order. Senator Ruston was on her feet. I was struggling to get Minister Watt to resume his seat. Senator Ruston.
I would ask Minister Watt if he would consider withdrawing some of the offensive remarks he made about my party.
Minister Watt, it's not like you to... Thank you. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. On that basis, I ask that further questions be placed on notice. And I also I will just add, if I may, to an answer that I gave to Senator Waters. I'm sorry I didn't get an opportunity because of the questions to come and give you a heads up, Senator. I think you asserted Mr Bowen is not going to COP30. That's not correct. Minister Bowen is going and he will be representing Australia.